Stevenson is Managing Director of Sustainable Marketing Services, which she founded in 2008. Maria is nationally recognised for her ability to identify and deliver long-term profit-growing market strategies and balance people, planet and profit. She's helped numerous businesses realise their full potential, and this morning Maria will present to us on how to get better leverage from your marketing in 2016. Thanks, Maria.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Excellent. What a wonderful sunny day. I'm delighted to be able to come down to the Gold Coast. It's such a beautiful day. So a little bit about us and me. I run a multi-award-winning marketing company in the Redlands. We have clients around Australia, internationally, small and large. And we focus on clients that have technical products and services, sustainability, professional services, and we also do a lot in the not-for-profits in aged care. Something I'm very passionate about is sustainability. So we are an eco-biz partner with CCIQ, and that means that we have a focus on the triple bottom line. So I believe it's profitable for businesses to adopt sustainable business practices. It's good for your community and it's good for the planet. Something that I've also been delighted to be involved in for a number of years is the Griffith mentoring program. I'm really delighted to be able to say I think this will be year 6. Each year we have a mentoree and we've always helped them to get a job. So we're delighted to be involved with Griffith University. So a little bit about me, why should you listen to me? I come from a third-generation family business. It's important that we try and understand the language that our customers use. And it's about being more authentic. It's about identifying every business in this, every person that works for a business in this room has a story about their business, and it will be unique. I always find it funny where some clients will talk about conflicts of interest, and what's very interesting is every business has a different strategy, they have different strengths, and they have a different story. And it's really important that you identify what is the story for your business. It's going to be from many years ago. I'm going to look with a gentleman called Mark Ritson, Professor Mark Ritson, who's I think one of all the French high-worth brands, and he talks to what they love most about you, what really, really well, and what's different. It doesn't have to be complicated. In my corporate days, working on branding, we'd come out with these 50-page manuals. It doesn't get complicated, just those things. Our customers, whether they're consumers or businesses, they want us to be real. They want us to be honest. So just as an example in our own business, our customers have been describing, so since moment that our customers describe us as practical, reliable and results orientated. So when the team first got over the shock that we're not exciting, we're not new age, we started to think about it a bit more. And what we came to realise is our customers actually want certainty. They want reliability. In effect, they're buying risk mitigation from us because they want a reliable result. So we then started to weave that message into all of our marketing. And we've been attracting, we've had very strong growth and we have really good clients that like working with us. So who here knows about or has used Google Analytics' new User Explorer tool that they've released this year? Very, very exciting. Very exciting. So one of our clients, Bainbridge Technologies, which is an importer distributor, and they have an e-commerce site, which is one of the challenges that we wouldn't have seen, a few years ago. All the channels are moving around. And so on that e-commerce site, Google's released this new user report. So I can actually It's hard to see that, but it basically says that the user first came in on the 25th of April through paid search, and I know all the pages they visited at a user level. And then 2 weeks later they came back by organics and they made a purchase, and they went around and visited a whole stack more. So suddenly if you start to say, if we're starting to look at this user and we're looking at a number of users and looking for profiles, we start to be able to get a lot more efficient in understanding and what we can actually deliver to these clients. And you'll often, who hears about marketing attribution? So in the marketing world, one of the things that we're trying to grapple with is, well, where did the source of referral come from? And so what you really see here is that there's multiple sources of influence. So it brings up new challenges. Well, do we say that the Google AdWords brought that client? Did we say it was organic? What if they came through social media as well? So that's when you start to hear people talking about omni-channel experience and things like that. So one of the other profound changes I'm finding with marketing is technology. I expect marketers to see more and more marketing businesses to start in terms of how we're going to see marketing businesses and what they look like. Something I'm very passionate about, and I think this is probably the biggest change in marketing at the moment, if you take aside all the technological changes, is content marketing. There's a real shift away from just product pushing to how do we add value to our customers. It's how do we help them make decisions along the way? How do we educate them? How do we entertain them? It's a completely different approach. And businesses that are still just trying to do a product push or a services push are going to get left behind because consumers don't want to engage with that. So it's now about I'd say an 80-20 rule where 80% of the content's got to be of value, of interest and helpful, and then 20% can be product push. If you do the first bit, if you build content that's of value, you will build a relationship and they will buy from you, all things being equal. But if you don't do that, then it's going to come down to price. So as an example, I talked before about Bainbridge Technologies. So Bainbridge Technologies sells battery chargers, inverters, accessories, really exciting stuff. But what they do is really exciting. One of the markets they work in is four-wheel drive. Now they provide more good times for four-wheel drive enthusiasts. How do they do that? They do it because they actually put the best products together to come up with a system that gives these consumers more reliable power. They have a history of working in marine, where it was life and death. If you're on a sailing boat out in the deep ocean and your power failed, it was quite a big issue. So they've got a strong expertise, but it's all about, when we talk about them in the market, it's about more good times. And how do we demonstrate that? We demonstrate it by we give them education on how do they put together a four-wheel drive system, how do they put together a camper trailer system, videos and the like. And so it's more, it's got a much more stronger engagement. It's about helping them make decisions. So content marketing, the two things I would say about content marketing that are absolutely critical, you've got to understand what topics do they want to know about, what are the themes, and what are the channels. One of the things I find in small business is we want to be on Facebook, Instagram, Meerkat, Snapchat. As small businesses, we don't have the resources to do that really well. It's understand where your audiences are playing and focus on one, get that right, and then add a new one into the mix. So in terms of, because timing's a bit tight, I'm going to go to the next slide and give you an example. So listen to the common questions they ask. If you'll start to see patterns, answer those questions. Always have FAQs on your website to answer the top common questions. It's about adding value. So accounting clients, I know we've got some accounting people here. It's an exciting topic. One of our clients, Wilson Tice, in Brisbane, they came to me and said, look, we've got to go to a fete, and there's 200 students at school, and we want you to do a flyer to go in the pack. And I said, well, the flyer will probably be binned, and it's 200 students, you're not going to get a good return on your investment. When you're looking at, well, how do we leverage this? How do we be able to develop it elsewhere? I said, well, instead of that, why don't you come up with an educational flyer on the flyer on the website, know how to manage their money. So not only did we use that in the school, it's value creation, and it was funny, the owner said to me in the beginning, he said, I'm not sure about this, Maria, but he's come back and he said, fantastic results, thank you. They've actually had a company that's actually approached them about a business deal around the whole concept. So how is it promoted? So in the school, they now use it in receptions, so there's more leverage, client meetings, banners on their website, it's promoted on their newsletters, social media. It's attracted and brought on new clients. It went viral in one of a mummy bloggers' forum scenario, which was fantastic. Okay, I'm going to flip forward. So one of the other things that's really profoundly different is today's customers want the right stuff fast. They used to be prepared to wait a bit longer to get the right stuff. They want it now. As an example, I was at lunch with a client yesterday, and they do food trucks. Really exciting deal, and they lost the deal not because of price, not because they were the best company to do it, but because they couldn't do it in 6 weeks. And we're seeing that more and more. I'm a member of the Executive Connection. This month's speaker was a gentleman called Dr. Mark Wren, and he talks about that we need to be doing things faster. You've got businesses that can run 3 shifts if they've got people working across the world. You know, so for some of us, we'll be competing against that scenario. So from a marketing point of view, I've got clients that work, in the solar industry, and they're not responding to their phone calls fast enough. So they're paying for the leads through, Google click to call ads, and because they don't respond, we can actually see the time that people drop out. So this is costing money. So it's all about how do we speed things up? And automation is one of them. So marketing automation can be as simple as having a lead. A lead comes into your website and it has an automatic responder, very personable, greeting them and giving them a bit of information. That's fine. To help them build that relationship, to move them along in the sales process one step further. From a shop point of view, if you're paid for an ad through a Google ad to get someone to the website and they've put something in the shop and they've put their email address in and they've forgotten, simply having really friendly content marketing orientated abandonment cart message that goes out to them. So not the stock standard stuff that the website comes with is like, hey, much more friendly, much more human, much more engaging. Naked Wine is a business that I follow quite passionately. These guys get it. They have an e-commerce, fantastic. So I will get it for a friend, educational content about new wine, product promos. I'm 50 this month. They sent me a birthday gift, things like that. So have a look at Naked Wine, sign up. Not necessarily to buy wine, but just see the experience you've got, learn the experience. They've won a number of awards. They know what they're doing. In Australia, I think they're probably one of the best people that are doing it. So how can you, so here we go here. What you can see here is, woohoo, your wine deserves a hug. Isn't that a much nicer way of communicating with someone? Like, as a marketer, I go, oh wow, when are they going to send me something next? I don't often say that about people. So it's like, how can we excite them and engage them? So finally, there are a lot of software, so I won't spend any time on that. But what I'd say is, ask yourself 3 quick questions. How can you get to know your audience better this year? What's one simple thing that you can implement in your business? Develop a content marketing strategy. There's heaps of resources free on the web. The best place in the world, and I'm going to, is the Content Marketing Institute. They run a course online for 12 months for about $1,000 US. I'm going to their conference in Cleveland, Ohio in September. And look at what you can do to automate and respond faster. We are in a very different world. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce to you Wayne Rabnott, Business Development Executive at Logan City Council. Wayne's an ex-tradie business owner, manufacturer and entrepreneur. He invented and successfully marketed the Sunland Dash Mat range, generating over $80 million worth of sales during his control. In his current role, Wayne shares his experience and expertise to establish and deliver programs for small business owners, especially entrepreneurs. This morning he's going to teach us about the critical non-essentials for small business. So, welcome Wayne.
Oh, good morning all. So I've got to keep my PowerPoints going. It's the only thing that keeps me under control. Otherwise I'd rattle on for hours. As you can see, I've had a few different jobs during my life, and most of them have been around startups and doing different sort of stuff than most other people, and I seem to attract lots of people who do startups to Logan. I'm doing some excellent, interesting stuff with people at the moment. Over the last year or so, I've got a guy who's just launched a golf improvement product about the size of that. It's an international product. Got some other guys who invented the edible egg ring in Logan. So there's another interesting product that first time was different way of eating eggs in hundreds of years. But these guys had a problem cooking eggs at events with the big egg rings. So I sat down one night and thought, how could we do it differently? Decided if you could cook the egg in an egg ring that you could eat, things would be wonderful. So they invented a thing called Bregos. Comes out of Logan Village, and they have 600, distributing through 600 IGA stores down the east coast of Australia now. What they do, they actually run a motorbike training school. So really, really interesting practice. So, saying in 1980 in Queensland, and people ring me up asking me if I could weld up their dashboards because their dashboards are cracking and they couldn't sell their cars. It wasn't worth anything. We tried and tried to figure out a way of doing it. Came up with one. One day I saw a thing about somebody floor carpets, and I figured out you could mould carpet to go on the dashboard of a car. So that started that whole process. We built that. As I said, I had two businesses running in 3 locations at that time, and we built that product up. Got excited when we sold one. We got extra super excited when we sold 3. Within a couple of years, I got the first Kmart order with 5,000 dash mats, and we went ho-hum, what's wrong with them. And we ended up, as I said, selling $80 million worth of dash mats. We were manufacturing and distributing 250,000 a year. It was a really, really big product that came out of a little business down in Wynnum, and still going today. That's what a dash mat looks like if you haven't seen one. So, small business. When we talk about this one today, Small Business Toolkit, I got excited about this because I deal with a lot of small businesses in my role to go and help small business people. Council funds go and do it. So I'm a for everybody in Logan. And I got excited because I got a toolkit that I take out to all of my small business people and talk about with them. And for small business, as opposed to big business, is the strategies you can use of focus and differentiation. So differentiation is very powerful for small business people. And lead generation is obviously the most critical thing we can all do in business. If you do no lead generation for your business, don't expect to stay in business very long. If you intend to sit at your kitchen table till 10 o'clock in the morning having a long cup of coffee and not go and talk to anybody, there'll be nobody to talk to. But the key in my mind from a marketing strategy as a tool to put in your toolbox is what I call critical non-essentials. and that's around customer service. We're all hearing customer service, but I was reflecting just a minute or so ago, in the 90s I sat on a board in Melbourne that had 4 accountants on it, and that was the beginning of accountants in control. If there are any around. It's really interesting working on a board for accountants. And the whole process was about customer service, cutting customer service to make more profits. It did leave a big gap in customer service and a big opportunity for small business to fill that gap. So a world leader in this he's retired now, retired last year, but he ran Palabar, and he actually had a world leader in customer service. Now this business is so small that he only works 20 hours a week, or he only worked 20 hours a week in this business. And he employed 3 part-time people to work in that business, so not very big. He had a very, very strange model of working this business. It's one that I often say to people, I'd never recommend you do it, but I recommend you a totally different way. Just a quick one on Paddy's story. I normally take an hour on this. Paddy was the typical business dentist, but he had one major problem in his whole business, and his flaw was that he hated talking to people. He didn't want to talk to patients, he didn't want to talk to staff, he didn't want to talk to anybody. So he used to get his nurses to put the patient in the chair, stuff them full of wadding, he'd race in, do the dental work and race back out again. He wouldn't talk to his staff about collecting money, about getting new customers, patients back, any of this sort of stuff. Got to the point where one Friday afternoon, Paddy went out to talk to his receptionist, and they were all standing around the reception desk laughing. He thought they were laughing at him. The next morning he came in with a chainsaw and he chopped the reception desk up into little pieces. This is your dentist. So his staff came in on Monday morning and found him sitting in the corner with his chainsaw. And so they had him committed. He had gone, the stress of running a normal business had driven him over the edge. And when he came, the accountant said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I want personal parking space." He said, "I want my care nurses allocated to every patient, and that nurse will be there every time one of those patients come in. That same nurse will be there to greet them at the front door. I want private waiting rooms for patients. I don't want them sitting around talking to each other. They have their own private rooms." And he put in a big $5,000 espresso machine, and he put on 32 different cups of coffee, flavours of coffee. They all were served on Royal Dalton china. They baked muffins on the premises, and they gave all the patients muffins when they were leaving. They didn't do it just give them a muffin. They put them in special greaseproof boxes. They wrapped them in ribbon and put sprigs of lavender in it, and they gave them to the patients, and they were a really big deal. So his accountant looked at all this and very, very correctly and rightly said, "Paddy, all that stuff's not essential to your business. You're a dentist." What Paddy thought was they were actually critical to his business. And so he named them the critical non-essentials. It's an oxymoron. How can something be not essential to your business yet be critical? What he reasoned, and this should be a take-home for all of you, so I like to think everybody should take this. Customers measure what they don't know by what they do. Who here amongst you has gone home after visiting a dentist and tried to figure out whether you had a good dental filling? You could stand in front of the mirror and open your mouth. What are you going to figure out? Nothing. We don't know how to measure a good dental filling, do we? Apart from the fact that there may be no pain. That's about it. So we can sure measure how a dentist makes us feel, though. So Paddy's made his patients feel very, very special, and they responded by coming back, and they responded by referring when they were asked. Not all patients of Paddy's were asked to refer. He had specific target market. He was targeting the richest 1,000 people in southeast Queensland, because he wanted to have a really good lifestyle but only work 20 hours a week. You've got to get more money. It's that simple. So he worked that strategy. Now, not only was he a dentist, he ended up writing 6 books about this small practice. So this practice, 20 hours a week with 3 part-time people, he managed to write 6 books about it. And for a guy who could not speak to his own employees, now travels the world talking about great customer service to people and selling his books on e-books. Couple of minutes, okay. I talk about this in Logan. One of our key businesses up there is a business that, what do I say there? Anybody know where IKEA was? Where IKEA was, there used to be a house there before they built IKEA, and a guy called Glenn Eland bought that house. He moved it down to his pet care facility in Cornubia. He did it up. It's got leather lounge chairs, it's got air conditioned, rooms are all done. They've got big flat screen TVs in it, and it's pet accommodation. Now, people pay more money to have their pets in these air conditioned flat screen TV rooms than they do to rent their own houses. Because for most reasons, of course, they're babies and everybody wants them looked after. The other, the Park Ridge, he's got the world's first dog tennis court. Who'd have thought? The place is called Animal World Pet Resorts, and Glenn Eland identified hundreds of critical non-essentials up there to keep his customers coming back and to keep them talking about his business. Whenever anybody goes there, revisits there, they always leave with another story that they can run out and tell all of their friends, which is doing his business for him. They're his critical non-essentials. With that, we took 20 people, business people, on a tour of Animal World last Friday morning. They absolutely didn't want to go home. They just wanted to sit there and keep talking about it. I think, you know, we had it to finish at 10:30. I think they started to leave about 11:30 because it's just such an amazing story about what's going on there. So, that's his little thing, Animal World Pet Resorts. My advice to small business people, make sure you're going to maximise your advertising area in Logan. If they get new clients in from that area, if those clients aren't impressed, what's going to happen to their business? It's going to collapse because it only has a limited pool, 4.5K. So my advice to them is let's get the critical non-essentials right, so when those clients, the new clients come in, they're going to have a Paddy sort of an experience and want to keep coming back and tell all their neighbours about how good it is. So it's not a process of doing this later. If they leave it till later, they won't have a practice. If they burn some, X amount of those people in that little district, they're not getting anybody from anywhere else, then they are really going to be in trouble. So in my toolkit there is critical non-essentials. Let's get them sorted, let's get them right, then let's get your lead generation going, get people in and get them talking about you. As Glenn actually said the other day, he spends very little money on advertising, and the money he saves on advertising he puts into his critical non-essentials and has people raving and talking about him. So you rarely get a second chance to impress in small business, so make sure you get set up and do that correctly. Thank you. So there's a lot more to that story, but it was 10 minutes. Any questions?
I might ask a question actually. So you mentioned you sold, was it 5,000 to Kmart at the start? So did you just get lucky? You know, did Kmart approach you, or were you persistent, or did you know somebody?
No, we deliberately stayed out of Kmart. My initial... Eventually we approached Kmart, but our product was in every auto store in Australia. What we built was a distribution channel, every auto store in Australia. So I had reps in every auto, which meant that we could advertise anywhere in Australia and drive people into stores. So we were actually running a pull strategy. Kmart were very keen, but we wouldn't have built our distribution channel if we'd gone to them first. It's the same reason I always stayed out of, I ended up staying out of Supercheap, amongst many. Any other? What an easy bunch. Okay, I'm around later.
I think Wayne's probably going to get swamped at the end of the breakfast with lots of different questions and for more of his stories. So now I introduce to you Stephen Holmes, partner at WMS Chartered Accountants. Based on the Gold Coast, Stephen is a SME tax expert and resource for other accounting professionals on tax matters. Stephen's a regular speaker on tax matters across southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. This morning, Stephen's here to talk to us about tax breaks and incentives for small business because the
Thank you, Laura. I'm used to accountant jokes, but this is unprecedented today to be bagged regularly, so I'm going to defend my profession. I'm the first one to bag us, so don't worry about that, because we are a fairly bloody terribly boring bunch. But I tell you what I try to do. I've got 2 children, and they go to a really lovely Catholic Christian school here on the coast, and around grade 3, my son came to me and said, I'm doing a presentation on you, Daddy. It's a daddy day, it wasn't particularly for me. And he said, can I talk to you about what you do? And I said, oh, bloody-tastic. Sit down, son. You could tell 10 minutes into the little spiel I had that he was over it. And he said, I think I've got enough. I said, righto, off we go. I wait a week or 2, he comes back, and my wife sat in on the presentation. I said, what'd Ben say about me? She said, he described what you do as printing money. I said, well, okay, that's somewhat interesting take out of that. My daughter was in the year following Ben, and so she asked me the same question the following year. I said, I've got to work on my spiel. So I focused it on tax and basically minimising tax and all the things I do. She said, right, I'm bored out of my brain on this one, but thanks, I think I've got what I do. You do, I'll go and do my presentation. My wife goes again, and I said, what did Molly say? Surely she got it more accurate. She said, Daddy avoids tax. So I don't know what Emmanuel College thinks of me. I print money and avoid tax, so that is why you should listen to me today, because I do 2 of those things apparently. Anyhow, look, mine's not, it's tax, but that's why they put me last, to make certain you all get out of here at 9. But needless to say, I'm going to give you a little tasting menu. You're all in small business in some form or another. I'm just going to walk you through very quickly why it is actually quite exciting time to be a small business in Australia as far as the tax laws go. And this stage is freaking me out because I've got to look around here. So I'm just going to generally float around if you don't mind. We're going to talk about the important tax breaks that are available at the moment. Some very new, exciting changes, as exciting as tax can be, that affect from 1 July this year, that will impact every one of you in the business space in the years to come, presuming they stay around if we have a change of government or whatever. But I'm going to walk you through those so you're fully aware of them next month. They're in, and then some other stuff if we have time. Time gets away, doesn't get away on us. So look, you would have all read in the budget or heard in the budget that the government has redefined what a small business is. It has always been a business with a turnover of no more than $2 million, and that's been in place for about 9 or 10 years. The government announced in the budget that will increase from $2 to $10 million. So from 1 July 2016, if you're under 10 and above 2, you're now regarded as a small business, and that will get you a lot of extra tax concessions, which we'll go through just the big ones, not the minimal little ones. But the important thing that's catching a lot of my clients out is you need to be mindful that it's on aggregated turnovers. You've got 4 different businesses running in different entities. You've got to add all the turnovers together in many cases, and so you might actually not qualify. But it's lifted a lot of clients I've got who are over 2. I'm saying you wait till July and we can do all these wonderful things because you're suddenly under 10. So just be mindful that it's now 10 million from 1 July. The big one that everyone's getting excited about was I called it the crack hit in the budget last year, the $20,000 immediate write-off for buying assets. Anyone who buys an asset today, you need to be under $2 million to claim that full write-off. July comes, everyone under $10 million. Reminder to everyone, that only lasts another year. So 30 June 17, that's gone. So you need to be talking, if you are in business and you're under 2, now's the time to buy an asset if you've got a problem about tax this year. If you're over 2 and you're under 10, wait till July and buy up all the assets you can and go hard. The big thing I say to businesses when they ring me is you'd be amazing how many Australian businesses want to spend money on an asset they don't really need to get a tax break. And I go, the first day I say, oh, should I buy this new car to get this 20 grand write-off? I say, do you really need the new car? And they go, not really. Don't bloody buy something for a tax deduction. It makes no economic sense. So I always tell people, firstly, buy an asset you need, but buy it before 30 June if you're a small business under 2 million. Wait till July if you're over 2 and under 10. We've got 2 changes to the tax rate system for companies. Now, I'm not excited about this at all, because if you're in business, you very rarely would trade in a company, and if you are, you need to be thinking why, to be honest. But the tax rate has reduced to 28.5%. It will reduce to 27.5% next year, and that basically applies to those small business under $10 million. I've got very few clients that this is eligible for, but I flag it. If you are trading through a company, you get a small tax rate reduction. But I do think the tax rates in Australia in companies are still too high, even regardless of that change. The big 2 I want to talk to you about now is it's brand new, and we've never had this in Australia before. And those accountants in the room hopefully are now getting to be aware of what's going on. So I'll pick a random person in this room. You started a business 2 years ago. It's doing really well. And you started in your own name, okay? But it's growing, and you're starting to employ people. And you go to your accountant, and after, as long as you stay awake for the first 10 minutes of the meeting, apparently, and then you hear some good advice, and the accountant says, I don't think you're in the right structure. Historically, that's been a real pain in the backside, because to change structure involves cost, maybe capital gains tax. It's a real pain in the backside. This new law from July, so in 2 weeks' time, every small business in Australia, but unfortunately can move their business to different structures without tax cost. And that is the first time we've ever had such a provision to work. So you can move from yourself to a trust, from a trust to a company. You can move whatever you like, whole business, some business assets, whatever you like, and the government will not charge you tax on that movement. I tell you, when we've seen now the legislation, it is really open to abuse. And I'm not going to tell you how to abuse it, because you already think I'm a avoider of tax. But there are some real loopholes in there that I'm sure they'll change. But it's an exciting thing that if you go to your accountant and you're in the wrong structure, and I've on the slide there, we have a lot of clients come to me and they're in a bad structure. They got bad advice, or they didn't get advice, probably more commonly is the case. And I say, you know what, had I been acting for you, we would have put you in this structure. And they, oh, can I change? Well, not really. Well, now, after July, you can. And you can move things around quite freely. Never had this type of law in Australia before. So it's just mindful. Talk about it with your accountant. If you are accountants in the room, you need to get onto it, because we're going to start using it. So I've got 3 or 4 clients. We're waiting to July, and we're going to start moving some stuff around, okay? And obviously it's a little more complicated than just moving stuff around, but it's that, in the end, that's the gist of it all, okay? Probably a client actually rang me yesterday wanting advice on this, and I said, yeah, look, well, I'm busy the next week, but I'll talk to you about it next week. This is probably the most exciting thing for evasion in a tax sphere in Australia's history. I mean, we'll talk about the R&D concession, but basically from 1 July 2016, so next week, this is the new tax incentive for angel investors. So to give an example, if you're starting up a startup or an innovative company in Australia, and you go to seek angel or private equity investors, there's been no real tax breaks to incentivise that person to invest in your business. From 1 July this year, sophisticated investors, so they're fairly big heavy hitters, can get a 20% tax offset. So basically a refund of tax up to $200,000 for investing up to $1 million in your business. So basically there's a lot of businesses getting themselves ready for this early incentive break. And what happens is you have to issue them new shares. They apply for the shares, they pay for the shares, that investor gets a 20% tax offset immediately back in that year. It's the government essentially funding private equity or angel investment in small innovative businesses, okay? It is very exciting, but that's not the most exciting thing for me. It's a bit on the slide there, and not pay capital gains tax for 10 years. So if you can have a startup, yes, it's risky. Someone comes in, invests in your startup. If you exit in 8 or 9 years, or the private equity or the angel investor takes a parachute and jumps out, they will not pay $1 of tax, and that is also unprecedented in Australian tax law. So there's a massive push in this, and it's a real hot topic. There is a couple of things you need to know. You have to be a relatively young company that is under 3 years old. If you're older than 3 years and younger than 6 years, there's an expense-based test. You can't have had more than $1 million of expenditure over the last 3 years. So it's really designed for startups who are in loss-making phase, seeking equity capital, needing to grow. You go out to the market, you issue shares to sophisticated people who have got deep pockets. So I act for both sides of that transaction. I've got guys who are looking for investment. Mainly I've got a lot of those. They're waiting to drop 1 July to drop money into private equity plays because they're doing it for obviously economic reasons to get a return, but the 20% immediate refund back off their tax is quite sexy for them. So they can drop $1 million into investment, and they will get 200 back when they file their tax return, presuming they got out of the tax, or it's not refundable, but they can actually get a $200,000 benefit. So there's some, but the companies have to be innovative. I can't start an accounting firm as innovative as I think I might be and take this type of thing. There's basically a point system based on your level of R&D and how innovative you are. So it is aimed at the pointy end of sort of innovation. Stuff that was called might qualify, but you need to get your structure right. And I've got a number of clients who are investments. So that is unprecedented. I keep saying it. It's exciting, but as younger professional,s this is your daily diet of ways to grow businesses and take on equity, okay? How are we going for time? 2 minutes? Fantastic. I just wanted to remind you of the R&D concession. And the R&D concession for small businesses is basically a 45% offset, refund of your R&D expenditure. You are amazed what can qualify. I used to joke, and I do a lot of training in this space, when someone would say, well, just try to explain to me what would qualify for R&D. And I used to say as a joke, oh, well, I wouldn't imagine changed the flavour to strawberry and made pink Tam Tams, that probably wouldn't qualify. And everyone laughed. It actually did qualify. There's meant to be risk, and the risk was, well, strawberry is able to be industry that it is innovation, risk-based research and development. So never think, I'm amazed some clients say to me, I think I'm doing innovation. I go, well, go and ask us industry. Hey, yeah, that's great. So that concession is all generous. You should take advantage of if you're doing any innovation. There's obviously other qualifications you need to meet, but it's something that you shouldn't give up. It's a way the government can fund your business by giving you back some of your R&D dollars back. The last advice, and I was thinking I'm talking to a Griffith alumni and the Junior Chamber of Commerce. My advice, if I had to go back in time to you guys at this age, I would say if you're in business, the worst mistakes come, notwithstanding we've bagged this poor profession during today, if you don't engage with your accountant before doing something. And my best clients engage with me beforehand so I can get them the right structure, the right advice, so they don't pay $1 more tax than they have to. But engaging with your accountant after the event is just trouble. So I would say to you, no matter where you are, and if you're worried about your accountant charging you, you shouldn't be. Ring up. I want to talk to you about this issue. Am I going about the right way? Like that fellow with the crazy vet dude. He rang his accountant and got some advice. He didn't take it, but at least he gauged first. So I would say to you, as a rule, a lot of these issues can go away if you engage with the accountant first. So thank you. I've rushed through that. Any questions other than about tax avoidance money? No questions at all? Okay. It says a hand up over there. Fantastic.
With the upcoming election, what do you think the implications are going to be when the government coming in or Labor government coming in?
Massive. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what's going to be messages in the business?
It's mainly around super space at the moment. So I'm sitting with the clients going, look, we've got to make some decisions. 2nd of July is the election. You could go one or two ways. A lot of this stuff is dual support. So none of the stuff, and the stuff I've talked to you about today is actually already law, so I can't see any of this being rolled back. So at a small business level, not a massive difference, but at a personal wealth level, superannuation, a really big difference. And I've got clients who are died here on these retrospective changes, which I could talk all day about super, but what the government has sort of done has really screwed you guys over and me over. I haven't yet hit super hard yet. You guys, your super's not going to be the most important vehicle you're going to have there with the new cap. So I feel somewhat sad for us because we don't take advantage of that fairly generous scheme that our fathers and mothers have got advantage of. So massive issue on super, but maybe small business not so. Thanks for the question. Good question.
Hi. So the question I've got is that traditionally tax preparation and lodgement is what accountants would do.
Yeah.
And with digitalisation, digital world,
Yep.
everybody, all the customers wanting things done now, pre-filled,
Yep.
all of that sort of gear. How much time would you say that your work has changed as an accountant, as in from traditional preparation and lodgement to actually giving advice?
Fantastic. I couldn't do a tax return today. I hold a Masters of Tax. I don't do my own return, as laughable as it is, because I would probably stuff it up. My day-to-day job today versus 10 years ago is poles apart. It's all consulting, all face-to-face with clients on this type of stuff. The day after the budget we basically met with all our big clients, explaining the implications. You never would have done that 10 years ago. You're always reactive. Clients are just so, they demand an hour, they needed to be contacted soon after the budget. Why am it for me? So my staff, they're still doing the compliance stuff. There's a real push away from that to more the consulting basis of stuff where you just can't do a tax return. A tax return, I had no value in a tax return. 20 accounts would probably come as a result. It's what went into the and I drive, and that's what gave me hopefully the medium bucks to do. Good question, thank you. I'll certainly hang around.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you, everyone, for this morning. That draws to a close our breakfast, or the official proceedings of our breakfast. As we've mentioned a few times, our speakers will hang around. So if you've got questions and you'd like to have a chat to them or continue to network with each other, we're not going to rush you off. So thank you very much for attending. Just quickly before you head off, we have randomly selected our Lucky Draw prize winner, and it's James Marshall from MWM Advisory. James, no? Okay, we can contact him and get him those tickets. So thank you for your attendance this morning. Please keep up to date with all the latest GBS, Alumni and Gold Coast Junior Chamber of Commerce news, events and communications via our respective Facebook pages, LinkedIn, our newsletters and our websites. We're very pleased to have had you here, and we look forward to seeing you at our future breakfasts and future events. Thank you.